On the broadcast tonight, the firestorm in Southern California, wildfires there burning out of control, hundreds of thousands of people leaving home. We'll have the latest on the state of emergency in the American West tonight. Also, the survivor Ann Curry's interview with Pakistan's Benazir Bhutto about the attempt on her life and what happens next for a nuclear nation that the U.S. needs. Making a difference, a small-town police chief publicly facing and fighting Alzheimer's. And finally, we'll take you on a tour of our new home. NBC Nightly News begins now.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
Good evening. Tonight, wildfires in Southern California are burning out of control. In some places, fires are flaring up where there are no resources to fight them, and they're moving faster than the efforts to put them down. We have a dramatic view of greater Los Angeles taken from space today. This shows the Santa Ana winds at work. They reverse normal weather patterns and blow from east to west from the desert out over the Pacific Ocean. Tonight, a state of emergency is in effect in 7 California counties from Santa Barbara south to San Diego. 250,000 Californians, 250,000 people have been evacuated. 150,000 acres have burned. It's a live picture from Stevenson Ranch just outside L.A. We have the California coastline covered tonight. We begin that coverage with George Lewis in San Diego. George, good evening.
Good evening, Brian. This is one of the hardest hit areas of San Diego, Rancho Bernardo on the northern city limits. Here, fire tore through expensive neighborhoods, while the people who live in this area made a hasty retreat. This scene is being repeated throughout Southern California. Fire pushed by strong winds, roaring through the hills and canyons, destroying homes in its path.
We don't know where we're taking off to.
Before dawn this morning, people were ordered to get out, but also to avoid Interstate 15, the major north-south artery that runs through this part of San Diego. The fire had jumped across the freeway. All off-duty policemen in San Diego were ordered back to work to assist in the mass evacuation. At Qualcomm Stadium, officials were preparing to handle up to 65,000 evacuees, while other evacuation centers opened up around the county.
All I can say, it's pretty wonderful for the people who go out of their way to take care of us in time of need.
In the nearby community of Poway, a hospital was hastily emptied. Some patients actually showing a sense of humor in the face of adversity.
Maybe it's time to move by a big river.
In a place called Canyon Country north of Los Angeles, water-dropping helicopters worked frantically to save property. Fleeing the fire's jammed highways. Governor Schwarzenegger declared a state of emergency and told the general in charge of the National Guard to assist in maintaining order.
And he is committed to take 800 troops off the border to provide for evacuation and for crowd control.
Tonight, the people on the fire lines will need all the help they can get. Their battle far from over. The fire chief of Lake Arrowhead put out a desperate plea for help. He said his resources, his fire engines are depleted, and that is true of firefighters throughout this state. Brian?
All right, George Lewis starting us off in San Diego. Thanks. If you were watching news over this past weekend, then you know these fires seem to just explode out of nowhere. They continue to tonight as we watch this disaster on
Within 28 hours of the first report of fire in Malibu early Sunday morning, 12 other separate blazes had broken out across Southern California.
Watch your step! Watch your step!
State Fire Battalion Chief Steve Shaw and his crew haven't stopped since.
When a siege like this starts, we know that we're going to be in for a long time.
The main culprit, the Santa Ana winds, with gusts reaching more than 70 miles an hour, blowing fiercely through canyons and passes and out to the ocean.
Strong winds, very low humidity, have high temperatures, and we have fire. That is the recipe that we're seeing right now of a very dynamic and devastating fire.
Today, as they were blasted by the winds on a ridgeline above Malibu, firefighters could plainly see the worst was not behind them.
The temperatures are coming up, the humidity's still coming. So
Perfect storm.
pretty much.
As early as Wednesday, forecasters were sounding the alarm that the conditions were right for Santa Ana winds, and immediately firefighters across the state began to mobilize. But few expected it to be this bad. An additional factor, drought. The Los Angeles area has only received about 3 inches of rain so far this year. Normally, it receives 12. Called La Nina, which surfaces until it is contained and controlled. They say the homes in the area remain potentially at risk. Brian.
Thanks, Lester. Lester Holt in Malibu tonight. The veteran meteorologist Fritz Coleman may be the best known weather expert.
Offshore wind, a pocket of air that starts at about the 3,000-foot level up in the high desert, gets filtered down through the mountain canyons and passes, and you'll get the wind tunnel effect. As the air comes from 3,000 feet down to sea level out to areas like Malibu, you get it sped up to maybe 70 or 80 miles an hour. You get it dried out with relative humidity as low as 4%. The air actually devoid of moisture, and you get temperatures that we'll see tomorrow at 100 degrees. Add to that the element that Lester talked about, a quarter to a fifth of the actual rainfall that we need. You have a bad situation here in Southern California this week.
And Fritz, how long do these usually last?
Humidity. Technically, according to the National Weather Service, is only supposed to last till tomorrow. That will mean that the winds will drop below about 35 miles an hour, but still very dry and very warm circumstances through the end of the week. Although the red flag warning drops off, the fire danger continues through at least Thursday or Friday.
Fritz Coleman in L.A. for us tonight. Fritz, thanks. As before it's all over, schools and City Hall closed early after a lot of roads, as you see, became impassable. Army Corps of Engineers closed a gate on a suburban canal, fearing that climbing waters are threatening the walls, holding them back. $46 billion. Wars in Iraq and Afghanistan today. That is on top of previous requests for Pakistan, where today the government rejected a request by former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto to let the U.S. help investigate last week's assassination attempt, one that she survived but which killed many others. My colleague Ann Curry is in Pakistan tonight, where she's talked one-on-one with Bhutto. Ann is with us tonight from Karachi. Ann, good evening.
Brian, Bhutto called for U.S. help to investigate the bombing because she believes some members of Pakistan's government actively support extremists, including those who try. Third time it's been checked. 5 bag searches, 3 metal detectors, and an army of guards and supporters form a ring of steel around her compound. You knew it was going to happen.
I knew an attempt would be made.
So you knew that people would be at risk.
And the people who came knew that there would be a risk. They put their lives on the line, and I put my life on the line. And we did it because we want to save Pakistan, and we think saving Pakistan comes by saving democracy.
Saving Pakistan from religious extremism, Al-Qaeda, and the Taliban, a worry the U.S. shares too. With President Pervez Musharraf's popular support eroding, behind the scenes the U.S. encouraged Benazir Bhutto to come home and join forces with Musharraf. But what if this fragile scenario doesn't work?
If this shotgun marriage doesn't work, then Musharraf all kinds of political activity. That in turn would polarize the country and play into the hands of the Islamic extremists and the Al-Qaeda organization.
Bhutto knows only too well the risks of taking on the extremists.
They have to be stopped. I have a choice to keep silent and to allow the extremists to do what they are doing, or I have a choice to stand up and say this is wrong and I'm going to try and save my country. And I've taken the second choice.
Bhutto, who is a controversial figure, insists on staying in Pakistan even though a government official has warned her that more assassination attempts are already planned. Brian?
All right, Ann, you travel safely over there. Thanks for your reporting tonight. Ann Curry in Karachi. When Nightly News continues from our new headquarters here this Monday night. Later, a small-town police chief who is fighting a public and personal battle.
Hillary Clinton wants to run the largest enterprise in the world, the government of the United States. It employs millions of people, trillions of dollars in revenue. She hasn't run a corner store. She hasn't run a state. She hasn't run a city. She has never run anything. And the idea that she could learn to be president, as an internship just didn't make any sense.
I have a million ideas. America can't afford them all. No kidding, Hillary. America can't afford you.
In case you missed it, a few days ago, Senator Clinton tried to spend $1 million on the Woodstock Concert Museum. Now, my friends, I wasn't there. I'm sure it was a cultural and pharmaceutical event. I was tied up at the time.
Senator McCain with a reference to his years as a POW. There was an election for governor in Louisiana this weekend, and the candidate who swept to an overwhelming victory does not fit the traditional mold. Bobby Jindal is conservative, he's a Republican, and he's young, and he'll be changing the face of the governor's office in that state quite literally. Our report from NBC's Martin Savage.
Fresh off his historic victory over the weekend, Louisiana Governor-elect Bobby Jindal embarked on what he called a statewide thank you tour.
Thank you.
The 36-year-old Indian American will be the state's first non-white governor elected here since Reconstruction. His election triggered celebration half a world away in his parents' hometown in India.
Our next governor!
Saturday, Jindal claimed the prize that eluded him when he ran for governor 4 years ago. He was defeated by Kathleen Blanco, but Blanco was defeated by Hurricane Katrina, which changed everything.
I think you'll see Louisiana will be much better prepared, God forbid, if there's another storm, another massive storm.
A converted Roman Catholic, Jindal is embraced by conservatives for his anti-abortion stance and as a proponent of teaching intelligent design, along with evolution. Getting him votes he failed to get in 2003 in conservative areas that once supported former Ku Klux Klansman David Duke.
I'm governor for everybody in Louisiana.
A Rhodes Scholar, Jindal was appointed state health secretary at 24. Supporters called him efficient. Critics called him cold-blooded for slashing the budget, cutting jobs, and lowering doctor reimbursements.
But you know what? The campaign's over. The insults don't bother me. The name-calling, the mud-throwing, it's over.
And now, Jindal says his first goal in office will be to tackle Louisiana's infamous political corruption.
To our government, which has been too corrupt, we can change, we must change, we will change.
Right now, voters have high expectations of Bobby Jindal. The easy part was winning. The hard part will be governing.
Experts say Jindal may have been helped by low voter turnout across the state, particularly among African Americans, who are a third of the population and tend to vote Democratic, which could explain why, in addition to offering voters his thanks, Jindal was asking for something: unity. Martin Savage, NBC News, Covington, Louisiana.
Tonight, there is news of an unprecedented look at America's aviation safety. This study was done by NASA. The space agency interviewed 24,000 pilots over a period of 4 years. Among the findings here, pilots reported twice as many near collisions in midair and on the runway, and twice as many collisions with birds than previous government data have ever suggested. Our own Tom Costello has a full report on our website. That's nightly.msnbc.com. We have a quick look at Wall Street now. Some jitters after Friday's big drop. but stocks finished on the upside across the board in trading today. Later, one man's decision to share a major personal challenge. It's changing his hometown, and it's making a difference.
Making a difference. Brought to you by GlaxoSmithKline.
Focusing on our popular Making a Difference reports, beginning tonight with one man in a position of responsibility facing a terrible personal hardship. He decided, however, not to try to hide it. Instead, he is publicly trying to raise awareness, and by doing so, he is in fact making a difference. Here's our chief science correspondent, Robert Bazell.
Can I take your order?
Lunchtime at Kemp's Grill in Lexington, Illinois, population 2,000.
You guys staying out of trouble today?
Everyone knows Police Chief Spencer JANSSEN, who's lived here almost all his life.
Yeah, take it easy.
And they know what he's been going through for more than a year.
I think the face of Alzheimer's is changing.
After experiencing memory problems, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at age 50.
Was it bad because it's a Monday?
He thinks about his wife Elizabeth and their 3 children.
What do you see for your future? You must have thought about that a lot. I look at the things that I'm going to miss. I feel sorry for myself, but then I look at what they're going to have to go through, and then I have to toughen up a little bit.
The results of that really...
Remarkably, the chief decided not to quit. The disease hadn't progressed to the point where he had to.
For now, what we'd do is just continue the same medication.
And he went public, notifying everyone in town with a letter in their utility bills, including Sam Gibson and Jerry Payne.
What do you think of the idea that the police chief has Alzheimer's disease?
Well, it's too bad that it happened to him, but I think the community is aware of what's going on and are behind him and will support him all they can.
Do you worry about it?
No. I haven't had one negative response yet, you know. Now, that might happen when I go to arrest somebody.
For now, he remains dedicated to police work and educating people about Alzheimer's.
It's not an old person's disease so much anymore. You've got somebody like me. I like to say I still look young. I wake up in the morning, and if I can remember what I did yesterday and I can remember what I have to do today, it's a good day for me.
When there are too many bad days, he will leave, knowing he has made a difference.
Yeah.
Robert Bazell, NBC News, Lexington, Illinois.
Is your wife in here?
We'll be back here in a moment with a word about our new digs around here and an update on our top story this evening, the fires in California.
I feel great.
Coming up on New York Nightly News, Mayor Bloomberg likes the subway, but today a police officer assigned to ride with him was attacked on a subway station platform. The mayor was just feet away. And disconnecting a cell phone ban. Connecticut says the current law is not effective. Instead, the ban might get even broader.
We are back, and as you no doubt noticed by now, we're with you from our new home, which we inaugurated today. We started the broadcast in the Nightly News main studio here. That brings us through this complex, which is really the beating heart of NBC News, the assignment desk area behind us, the MSNBC studios. They've been on the air all day. They'll remain that way 24/7 from here on in. It's this area, though, as the nerve center where we check in with crews and producers and correspondents overseas, as we did with Ann Curry tonight, as we will now with George Lewis, who's on our team covering the fires in California. George will close us out with an update from San Diego. George?
Hey, Brian, the latest from San Diego, 100,000 acres burned, 250,000 people evacuated. A new fire now in the Stevenson Ranch area north of Los Angeles. This is near the Magic Mountain theme park, plowing into houses fed by those high Santa Ana winds that we talked about earlier. And also another area of concern is Lake Arrowhead, California, where the fire chief says he's completely tapped out of resources. 128 homes have burned in that area. Governor Schwarzenegger got a call today from President Bush pledging all sorts of aid from the federal government. Brian?
George Lewis in San Diego will stay on the story all night long into tomorrow. For now, that is our broadcast for this Monday night. Thank you, as always, for being with us. I'm Brian Williams. We'll look for you right back here tomorrow evening. Good night.